If I told you the richest man in the world once scrubbed McDonald's floors for $2.69 an hour, would you believe me? Because that was me. And let me tell you, greatness doesn't always start with boardrooms, private jets, or million-dollar ideas. Sometimes it starts with greasy counters and burnt fries. At 16, I wasn't a founder. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to be. I was just another teenager trying not to burn the French fries. But here's the truth. The hardest jobs often teach you the most if you're paying attention. And I was paying attention because I've always lived with one foot in the future. Now, before we dive in, I want you to stick with me until the end of this video, because the lessons I'm about to share aren't just about how I built Amazon. They're about how you can take whatever starting point you have right now and turn it into something extraordinary. Hey, if you're into real down-to-earth money talks and mindset shifts that actually teach you something, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Point 1. Humble beginnings. My story actually starts earlier. I was born in Albuquerque in 1964. My mother, Jackie, was just 17 years old, still in high school. Imagine being a teenage mom in the 1960s, in a time when that was not exactly accepted. She was young, scared, and poor. So poor, in fact, that when she moved into her first apartment with me, she decided we could afford rent only if we gave up a telephone. No phone, just grit. That grit shaped me. My biological father was gone early on, but when I was 4, my mom remarried a Cuban immigrant named Miguel Mike Bezos. He adopted me, gave me his last name, and gave me a model of resilience that I would carry for life. Every summer, I'd spend months at my grandfather's ranch in Cotulla, Texas. My grandfather was a man of quiet self-reliance. If a windmill broke, he didn't call for help, he fixed it. If an animal was sick, he researched, experimented, and solved it himself. Watching him, I learned something crucial. You don't have to know everything at the start. You can figure it out as you go. That lesson has saved me more times than I can count. Point 2. The nerd years. I was a nerdy kid, no shame in admitting it. I loved science, technology, and tinkering with gadgets. Our garage was basically my personal laboratory. I built an electric alarm system to keep my brother and sister out of my room. I even tried to rig up contraptions that frankly looked more like bad science fiction than anything useful. But curiosity is fuel, and that fuel carried me all the way through high school, where I became valedictorian, not because I was the smartest guy in the room, but because I was the hardest worker. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and if you combine the two, you're unstoppable. Point 3. Princeton and Pivoting. I went to Princeton thinking I would become a physicist. I loved physics. I admired people like Einstein and Feynman. But there was one problem. I wasn't Einstein or Feynman. By the time I realized I was struggling to keep up with my classmates, I had an important moment of clarity. Sometimes quitting is actually the smartest choice. So I pivoted into electrical engineering and computer science, and that decision changed the trajectory of my life. I graduated summa cum laude, but grades weren't the real prize. What mattered was that I had finally found the field where my curiosity could run wild. After Princeton, I was courted by companies like Intel, Bell Labs, and Anderson Consulting, but I ended up at a startup called Fitel, and later at a hedge fund D.E. Shaw in New York. That's where I met David Shaw, a brilliant man who taught me a great deal about problem solving, hiring, and thinking long term. And yes, I also decided it was time to get married. Now here's where it gets funny. I had what you might call unusual criteria. I told my friends I wanted a woman who could get me out of a third world prison. Why? Because resourcefulness, in my mind, was non-negotiable. Life is unpredictable, and I needed a partner who could think her way out of anything. After a few failed blind dates, dozens of failed blind dates, I met Mackenzie. She had that spark, that resourcefulness. We dated for 3 months, got engaged for 3 months, and then married, 6 months total. Sometimes you don't need years to know, it just clicks. If you're getting value from this message and you want me to continue, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I drop messages like this every day to build your mindset and finances. Thank you. Let's continue. Point 4. Breaking the perfect picture. So there I was, a secure job at a top hedge fund, married to a brilliant woman, living in New York City. Life was good, maybe even perfect. But here's the thing about perfect. It can be a trap. Perfect makes you comfortable, and comfort is the enemy of growth. I asked myself, when I'm 80 years old, will I regret staying safe, or will I regret not taking the biggest risk of my life? That's when the idea of selling books on the internet came to me. It sounded insane. Who buys books online? But I couldn't let go of the thought. I made my decision using what I call the regret minimization framework. I asked myself, when I'm old and looking back, will I regret leaving Wall Street? Probably not. But will I regret not trying this crazy idea? Absolutely. So I quit my job, packed up my life, and with Mackenzie driving the car and me typing a business plan in the passenger seat, we drove across the country to Seattle. That was the beginning of Amazon. Finally, if there's one thing my journey has taught me, it's this: success isn't about being the smartest or the most talented. It's about being curious enough to explore, resourceful enough to figure things out, and courageous enough to bet on yourself even when the odds look ridiculous. Looking back, the teenage kid mopping McDonald's floors could never have imagined this life. But maybe he would have understood this, that every small step matters, every lesson counts, every risk builds the foundation for the next one. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges. You will. The question is, will you embrace them, learn from them, and keep going? Because the future doesn't just happen, it's built, one decision at a time, and sometimes it starts with a broom in your hand and a burger on the grill. If this video brought you value or stirred something in you, give it a like, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Videos like this take weeks of research, writing, and care to create. Don't just watch and go away. Drop your thoughts in the comments section. I'd love to hear what stuck with you the most.